Much of the conservative messaging that we're seeing coming from Washington is being mirrored here at home. Last week, Missouri's Republican Governor Mike Kehoe signed an order eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from state agencies. And Kansas Republicans, with their larger supermajority, overrode a veto from Governor Laura Kelly, banning gender-affirming care for minors in the Sunflower State. Let's discuss these and other major headlines with our roundtable of journalists. Please welcome back Brian Ellison, host contributor with KCUR, and KMBC9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. Let's start in Missouri. Mahoney, this DEI move is really following the playbook from the White House.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And there's some question as to how much DEI is being done in the state of Missouri. There was a piece in the Columbia Missourian last year talking about DEI and the MU system. They said they didn't find that much. But nonetheless, there is a restriction on budgets. And so the programs that are in there that the Republicans or conservatives don't like are certainly on the hit list.
Yeah, and of course, what the executive order from Governor Kehoe this week says is that agencies in the state will have 90 days to review all of their programs. So I think there's probably some determination yet to be made about what exactly is included in that category.
Yeah, you know, we talk about conservative campaign promises, and Brian, in Missouri, we are starting to see the pushback that we anticipated when it comes to the abortion amendment.
We certainly are, and we're seeing it on a number of fronts. After the first abortions have begun being performed now in Kansas City, and the first ones in Missouri, we are starting to hear about legal challenges. There's a widely anticipated appeal of that judge's ruling in Jackson County from Attorney General Andrew Bailey that's expected any time. We're also imagining that there will be legislation that's intended, as it has in Kansas over the last few years, to sort of start to limit the boundaries of this access to abortion. And then there is a significant movement to have an amendment to replace Amendment 3 that passed by voters that would in one way or another impose again some restrictions on abortion in the state.
And that would be a redo for voters, because voters would have to sign off on that.
Yeah, it would be back on the ballot probably in the next general election or its primary coming up in a couple of years.
Yeah. Let's go to Kansas now. We've seen Republicans certainly exert some muscle with their new supermajority, their larger supermajority, I should say, with this veto override when it comes to gender-affirming care. Really another campaign promise delivered on that side.
Yeah, that and just earlier this week, the Senate in Kansas passed another bill limiting the ability of the Kansas Department of Health and the Kelly administration to close down or restrict attendance at events like churches, although it wasn't mentioned in Ty Masterson's statement, but other public gatherings.
When we see this supermajority, again, it is grown, but they've had a supermajority for a long time. What should we expect? We saw Medicaid expansion kind of falter and fail yet again. What do we expect going forward?
Well, I think the Kansas Republicans are very emboldened right now. They're emboldened not only by the slight increase in the number of votes they got that is going to allow them to override most vetoes from Governor Laura Kelly, but also by what's happening in Washington. I think the momentum right at this moment in American politics is allowing them to ask questions they might not have asked before about anti-transgender bills, about shutting down efforts to expand social services. So I think you're going to see more and more legislation, and look for it in the passage of the state budget in particular, where we'll see probably significant spending cuts.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Brian Ellison, Michael Mahoney, thank you.